Hello, everybody. Thank y'all for rocking with me, listening to me, following, subscribing. Make sure you tell a coworker, tell a friend to come on over here on this YouTube and check me out. I've been doing my best to be pretty dedicated to this and see where I'm gonna be at in a year. But I wanted to jump on real quick just to talk like usual. Y'all know what it is. We in the car. I wanted to just remind you, encourage you. Of course, you already know what I'm getting ready. You're gonna already be aware of what I'm getting ready to say. But sometimes, we need to just really hear it. Don't be afraid because you feel like you don't know something. Don't let your lack of knowledge scare you from moving forward, making decisions. Sometimes lack of knowledge can also translate into the unknown, right? Sometimes we won't do certain things because of the unknown, and we like, well, what about this? What about that, right? So now your mind is running. But do not let that stop you from getting the knowledge, finding out, asking questions. We have to be mindful, of course, about social media and Google, but those things can also be your best friend. Because there's a lot of people that are knowledgeable about things that we're not knowledgeable about. And see, I was talking to somebody and I said, they say, if you want to hide something from people, put it in a book. And even though that's like a colloquial saying, sometimes they associate it to race. But the thing is, think about how things could have possibly been done back in the day. There was no safe. You couldn't get a safe to store your money, your passports, your da-da-da. And so, especially in that particular time, books were so rare that you had to probably hide the book. Obviously, not probably, you had to hide the book. So anything that you probably wanted to document or whatever the case may be, pardon me, you could possibly put it in a book as a means of safety. So it's not just about knowledge, right? That saying had to come from somewhere. And then if you think about back then, especially African Americans, we couldn't even have books. We couldn't even be taught to read. If somebody was caught reading or teaching African Americans to read, you could be killed. So the knowledge there's definitely knowledge in books. And so, now we advance to the internet, your phone. You can pick up the phone and Google something and it'll pop up just like that. I remember one time Google how sometimes Google will change the top, and they had this timer up there that when you would search something, it'll quickly put the time up of how long it took them to find you the answer. And it would be like 0.000024. It's like, oh my goodness, that's how quickly it can get you the information, right? So we have the tools, but do not let the devil trick you into moving forward for something for yourself or for your family or just with anything because you don't have the answer, or it seems like it's the unknown. Yeah, it's the unknown to you right now, but you can figure it out. The Bible talks about if you just want knowledge, just ask me, I'll give it to you. If you want wisdom, just ask me, I'll give it to you. If you pray, I'll give it to you. He says that. The word says that. And so how we go about getting it and how we go about positioning ourselves to now receive the information is so important. So a lot of the times when you talk to people, or have you ever been in a position to where you would talk to people and you are hearing what they're saying, hearing what they possibly want to do, and you would say, girl, how come you ain't did that by now? That sounds great. Or whoever you're speaking to. Or you maybe can see the path very clear of how this could be obtained. And they may say, well, I just really don't know how to go about. That's how they start that sentence. I just really don't know. I'm just really unsure. Or I'm just, I'm not 100% comfortable in, I know a little bit, but. And the reality of it is you can find out. Because just like the people who has the information, they weren't born with that information. Now, don't get me wrong. I do believe that God gives us certain gifts, that we can obtain certain things. Some people learn on a faster level. Some people could play music without even learning how to read music and different things like that. But they still had to get that information from somewhere, right? So you just have to equip yourself to be able to just, number one, go try to get the information. And of course, when you get the information, don't be intimidated by what it's saying. You ever tried to put something together and you like, this is not making no sense. But when you slow down, you actually figured it out, or you actually realize, whoo, I had to slow down. I had to wait. This didn't make sense. And this is how you know it can be done, because you have people that never seen a language but can learn it. And of course, it's intimidating. They say English is one of the hardest languages to learn. But guess what? It can be learned. You may think, I can't read Chinese, but you can be taught and educated about anything. You can get the knowledge on how to learn anything. Yes, it's going to take some time. Take a little time out of your day. It may take you a couple of hours to put something together. But everybody is not born with perfect knowledge. You think every single person that opens up a business knows every single aspect of the business? No. You know how I know? Because the business has highs and lows. It has times where it profits and it has times where it's in the red, right? So they're trying to figure out, okay, how do I balance this? Let's take the data, look at last year, see what we can do better this year, right? So we always are trying, even corporations, and like I said, businesses, they're having to continue to do research. Look at their data from before. Look at the sales. Look at the area that they decided to put the business in. They have to continue to do ongoing research so that they can prepare for next year. They can figure out how much product do we need, because obviously they're not just going to be making product and it's sitting there going to waste. All of that comes from data, studying the data. All of these people are not experts. And then even if they hire experts, guess what? Those experts, there's still a level of learning that the experts has to do. When you're in a particular type of job, and most jobs for the most part, they require you to do ongoing training. Doctors is not still operating from when they became a doctor 15 years ago. Why? Because there's so much more technology that's coming out. So they go to seminars and trainings, and they have to keep a certain amount of hours a year to be able to show you're still up on your knowledge. You're still studying. You're still making yourself aware. You're making yourself aware of new information, new technology, other studies people are doing all across the world. They don't even just limit it to the United States. There's a lot of doctors in other countries that come up with these profound things, and then the U.S. brings it over, tests it, get it approved, etc., etc. So you can't just limit yourself from fear, or because, am I going to be able to understand this? Am I going to be able to? Give yourself some time and give yourself some credit and ask God to help you. God, allow me to retain this. Guess what? None of us learned how to talk. We didn't know what language was when we was a newborn, fresh out the mother's womb. We didn't know what words were. We didn't know how to read or write, but guess what? We were taught. And it wasn't even no sacred special way. All that loved one did was talk. You didn't get into pronunciation and things like that until a little bit later. But all they did was talk, gesture. They continued to speak to you a certain way that as you got older, then they added something new. You go from telling a baby no to I said stop, to don't do that because it'll burn you, right? You're constantly elevating their level of learning. You're challenging them, and they're having to figure it out with zero knowledge. So you see how you can't let the devil trick you? So just imagine wherever place that you are, you want the knowledge, just say, oh, I'm just a baby. Because if I keep doing this over and over again, if I keep studying this over and over again, if I keep trying to connect with the right people over and over again and get the knowledge that I need, it'll start to make sense to me. You've already proven that you have the ability to learn something you've never heard, and now you're fluent and articulated in it by the English language. And the English language is just one form of communication, right? You have nonverbal communication, right? You have to watch people's body languages and cues and their eyes and what are they doing with their face and what are they not saying? Energy, right? Are they sitting up? Are their shoulders shrugged, right? But who taught you that as a baby? You knew nothing about that. So understand that you have the power to learn. And don't get frustrated. Just say, oh, just like I was taught as a baby, I could be taught this too. I can get the knowledge from my business. I can get the knowledge from my book. I can get the knowledge on how to help myself, how to help my child, how to help my spouse, how to help my family member, right? How to start something, how to end something, how to set boundaries, right? How to have healthy conversations, how to deal with emotion, how to deal with mental health, how to deal with depression, how to deal with addiction, how to deal with my finances. You can learn these things. But see, what the devil does is he automatically wants to create a barrier to make you feel like it's too much to retain. How am I going to learn all of this? I don't even understand it. It seems like it's too much work. But just as innocent as you were as a baby, you didn't feel those pressures. You were just this open book, or like they say, you're a sponge. The most impressionable time is from 0 to 5. So just say to yourself, you know what? I'm going to approach this like this is from 0 to 5. And know my mother or my father or whoever raised me is not in front of me teaching me. But I'm going to use this tool, the internet, people, books, right? I may start looking up words in a dictionary. Whatever it is you're trying to study, have a dictionary right next to you so you can look up words. And also, you know, don't just limit yourself to just what is happening in English. They say that China is so advanced. We actually behind. The United States is behind. We get a lot of our stuff from them because they're so advanced. They're so ahead of the game. But don't let the devil make you think you can't be healed. You can't be set free. You can't conquer. You can't overcome. You can't be restored. Ask God to show you, God, where do I get this knowledge from? How do I get this knowledge? Place somebody in my life. God, give me a healthy podcast. Give me a healthy preacher. Right? And when I say healthy, I'm not saying they have to be perfect, but put somebody in some audio or some visual in front of me where I can be able to retain the information based on how I learn. So it's also important to learn your learning style. But watch this. Just because you're comfortable in your learning style of reading or visual, if you're more comfortable in reading, don't just X out visual. If you're more comfortable in visual, don't just X out reading. If you're more comfortable in demonstration, don't just X out reading and visual. Challenge yourself, expand yourself, push yourself. Don't settle for it. This is just all I know. I guess this is just how it's going to be. No. Because think about it this way. What if your doctor only studied based on 10, 15 years ago? And you say, I mean, I've even found myself saying certain things, even though it can be kind of funny sometimes depending on how I'm saying it. I'm like, listen, it's 2024. I know y'all got to have a fix for this. I know it's an invention for this. I know there's a way around this. It's 2024. Why? Because I know the world is always advancing. And it's so advanced that we don't even know that they already have stuff. We in the dark. They already got stuff. They just waiting to release it. And so, hey, this is 2024. You can learn. You can teach yourself. If you got to put on an audio, if you got to put on YouTube and play it over and over and over again to get it into your spirit, so therefore your spirit can now override your flesh. When your flesh is saying you can't, it's too much information. How am I going to be able to do this? There's no way. Yes, there is. There's always a way with God. I was having this conversation, and this is kind of a little bit of a side note, but it'll correlate. I was saying, the Bible says to us that it says when we see Jesus performing miracle signs and wonders, he's the templar, but he said you can do greater works. So that would be suggestive if one of his works was to heal the blind, like allow the blind eyes to see. He's saying you can do what I do, but you can do something even greater than allowing a person who's blind and giving them their sight. And my mind said, whoa, it's something greater than that. But see, if you don't want to learn that and study that and get to that place, you'll think, how am I ever going to get a person to see? Wait, but he said that not only could you get a person to see, you could do something greater than that. So now my mind said, whoa, what's greater than that? We don't even think that it's something greater than that because we just so impressed and enamored by that because our knowledge is limited. Our faith can be limited at times. What we believe God can do can be limited at times. But when you open up your mind and from a healthy place and not a conjuring place, not a witchcraft place, of that true saying, I can do all things through Christ. Come on now. It's nothing you can't do if you put your mind to it. Putting your mind to it isn't just getting the knowledge, is Be disciplined. Have self-confidence. Encourage yourself. Learn. Understand how you learn. Why you learn the way that you learn. Challenge yourself to learn other ways. So there's so many things that can go into, if you put your mind to it, you can do anything. Because a lot of us, if we're honest about it, if we just really honest, a lot of us will not do things because we think that we don't know, and we think that we're not able to do it because we don't know. So we will only go as far as we feel comfortable enough to go. We'll already talk ourselves out of it. Oh, no, I don't think I could do that. Well, how did you think the people that's doing it learned? They had to learn. It's nothing overly spectacular or special about them. Like I said, some people do have certain gifts where you could play music without reading it. You could just hear it, pick it up and play. But there's still a means to where you should learn how to read music. Because the more you can add to your weaponry, the more powerful you are, the more stronger you are, the more you understand what you can do with who you are and whose you are, and who you could do it through Christ, what Christ helped, what Christ strength. How can the devil stop you? How can the devil convince you that you don't know what you're doing when you have the mind of Christ? How can the devil convince you that you're not strong enough when you use God's strength in your weakness? How can the devil convince you that you're not able to do it when God shows you can do everything with me? I've already went before you and showed you this can be done. This isn't a drill. This isn't a test. This isn't a hoax. This is a real thing. So we think about the little things we say. I'm not going to be able to lose weight. It's so hard for me to, is it really that hard? Or are you conditioned to believe it's that hard? Because at one point, we didn't have all of these options. At one point, we only ate plants and different things like that. So that shows you that it's possible. Oh, I don't know how I'm going to be able to go back to school. Who is just so different. You already talked yourself out of it. So any little thing that looks like a challenge or difficulty, you already ahead of the game talking yourself out of it before you even get started, or right when you get started. The smallest sign, right? We even do that about stressors, difficulties, challenges. How I'm going to be able to get out of this? How is this going to work out, God? Man, how I'm going to do that? You already setting yourself up, premeditating how you going to do it. But isn't it funny how somehow it still works out? So how was you able to do that then? So you're the same thing that you're dealing with in your that, you can still conquer the that. Don't sell yourself short. Don't tell yourself what you can't do. Get some dedication, get some discipline, get some self-esteem to where you're saying, you know what? If I got to study this for an hour a day, yeah, I might be a little bit tired, but it ain't going to do me no good scrolling on TikTok for an hour. Let me look at something knowledgeable. Let me look at something that's going to be, that can pour an investment into me so that I can see a return. And we know we do stuff like that on TikTok, watching reality shows, watching the news. We will spend time doing other things, shopping on the phone. But what if you find you want to watch your reality show? Well, after the episode ends, dedicate for 10 minutes before I go to the next episode. I'm going to read this. I'm going to study this. I'm going to listen to this. Whatever it is you got to do. But don't talk yourself out of it before you even get started. And even as you going through the process, don't get fooled that you got a little bit of momentum and then you feel like it's a shift and you like, man, I ran into a roadblock. Don't count yourself out. Keep going. Keep getting the knowledge. Keep making yourself aware, because that is one way, one tool, and one key to success. Because when you are aware, you're prepared. When you're unaware, how are you expected to know how to respond? You going off of an audible. Oh, right now, we right now, audible. No. But if you get yourself to a position to where you can obtain, be open, mentally, emotionally, physically, you'll see. I love y'all. We'll talk soon.